in Denmark, they inevitably say, you're from Australia. Put another shrimp on the barbie. Thank you, Ashley, for hooking me, setting me up on the crocodile Dundee opener. So, the thing is, Australians don't say shrimp. We say prawns. And what we put on a barbecue are sausages. Or in Australian ochre, we would say snacks. So it's more accurate to say, put another snack on the barbie. Crocodile Dundee's a little bit confused about Australian identity. Australians are confused about Australian identity. So here's how it goes when I meet another Australian. Hi Charles, nice to meet you. And where do you come from? Melbourne. Yeah, but where you really come from? Melbourne. Yeah, well, where do your parents come from? Melbourne. Okay, yeah, but where would their parents come from? Melbourne. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because the only real Australians are Aboriginals. The rest of us got off the boat. So, if I were to say, where the fuck were your grandparents born, I'd be rude. So, to make sense of my Jewish, Chinese, Transylvanian, Australian identity, I enrolled in cultural studies. Because the only way to make sense of all of that was to read essays from the 1970s by a Palestinian American deconstructing 19th century opera. And I'd find myself in seminars where some philosopher would be sounding off and deconstructing the villanelle form of Elizabeth Bishop's one art poem. And inevitably, some git would stand up in the audience in question time, and they would say this, something along these lines. It does, but what is your ontology? And never really been able to pin down the meaning of the word ontology. When you look it up on Wikipedia, it's called the study of being. What the fuck does that mean? And I graduated from that education into the global financial crisis where the world didn't even give me a job to identify with. It was time for pragmatism. It was time for something sensible, like become an accountant. So I decided to enroll in a mathematics degree to learn how to crunch numbers. And where does mathematics start you off? Suppose there exists an X, and then we're still, let the identity map X to X. But the longer you stay with mathematics, the more grounded it becomes in solving real-world problems. Like, how do we make the trains run on time? You might be familiar with some of the ways in which we answer real-world questions with evidence from the world. You might have heard some of these terms before. Algorithms, statistics, large language models, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, and, girl talk. So I've been doing girl talk with data for, about 15 years now. I've seen how it's done in startups, research, corporate. I've built data platforms. I have written in Python, SQL, R, and all the frickin' languages. And now that I've seen how it's done in all sorts of different domains and contexts, I'm here to say this. I have no earthly idea how the trains run on time. Do you understand the shit fuckery of data, and I mean shit fuckery, of just how bad it is in the data world? Let's think about answering a question with real-world evidence like this. If we have these things, then we can conclude these results. Mathematically speaking, we would say, if P, then Q. So, how might we go about doing that? Well, let's think about a company. Suppose the company wants to know, how much money will we make next year? Proper data science question, right? Suppose the company makes 3 million in the first year, 1 million in the second, and 2 million in the third. We can take the average and say in the next year, we're going to make about 2 million. Hedge our bets. And seems easy, right? Data science, easy. But the numbers don't arrive like that anymore. They don't arrive in nice little neat packages. No. We've got messy data. We've got billions of rows, and then it is impossible to know which data points we're meant to be pulling into what. And we increasingly need to have entire sets of people gathering those P's, and entire sets of people who are specialists in how to crunch those Q's, and we need people to build the system that's going to carry the P's all with Q's, and all together this is now known very informatively as the modern data stack. And so you might think about this, the modern data stack is the brain of artificial intelligence. So, because think about an algorithm. People talk about algorithms as if they are artificial intelligence, but an algorithm is just math on a blackboard until you make it think. So how do you make an algorithm think? Well, it's exactly what I described. You've got to have your P's, they've got to carry through to the algorithm to crunch them into Q's, and output the results in some kind of way that scientists can write up in reports, PowerPoint slides, and scientific papers. And so you end up with this system of people trying to answer questions, gathering up the peas, and trying to crunch the queues. And so you've got people and tools, tools arrowing people arrowing people. And at the start, you've got just a few people, a few tools, a little bit of data. But as each step of time goes by, you have more arrows and more tools, more people arrowing things, more tools arrowing tools. It just gets more and more and more complicated of people and things and tools and arrows. And if you are, unfortunately, cursed, as I am, with a postgraduate training in chaos theory, then your skin starts to itch with the fact that this is a topologically dynamic system, which means that it is mathematically predictable that a butterfly of shit data in a single row in the upstream is going to cause a tornado of bad dashboards and people losing their jobs in the upstream. And this is mathematically provable. So, when I say this shit fuckery, if you have training in chaos theory and abstract math and you're working in data, it's like being the one-eyed woman in the land of the blind. We have really got to retire this term of artificial intelligence because the way that the people and the tools and the arrows are all interoperating is astonishingly, staggeringly stupid. Artificial stupidity is perhaps a little bit more articulate about what we're doing. So we've got these people, these tools, and the arrows, and they're growing over time. It's getting more and more chaotic. And so when chaos emerges, we know what happens. The dinosaurs are out of the park, and we need to get them back into the enclosure. And I go to my feed, and what is it talking about? Technological singularity and artificial intelligence. And when is the machine going to think like a human? Well, people, I'm here to tell you that you can look it up. A few months ago, leading mathematical meta-scientists proved that large language models, natural language processing algorithms, will never be able to think like humans. They proved that it's computationally intractable. That's math speak for. There ain't going to be no such fucking thing as Skynet. We're surrounded by real world problems, and I open my LinkedIn feed and it's AI this and agentic this, and when are the Skynet going to come, and when are they going to be magic? And I'm looking around going, people, the singularity is here. And as chaos must be governed, you are in infinitudes of systems and tools and people interacting with systems and tools at scale that you don't control. Every single day, it's right here, it's happening in real time. And the thing is, we do have the map and the science, we just need the will. So we need to stop being impressed by this concept of algorithms and start addressing just how stupidly humans are using them. Because until we look at the systems and ask, why and how and who is defining the arrows, then we cannot. Let me give you an example of how people define arrows in systems that has nothing to do with data. Think about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Good idea to solve poverty, right? Let's not be hungry. Seems sensible. Power, good idea. Let's give people power. Seems sensible. All right, so Sustainable Development Goals. Let's give people clean power. Cool. So the decision makers go, cool. We're going to arrow to some people to implement the things who are going to arrow to implement some kind of sustainable development thing that's going to make power cleaner and greener. Good, right? But if you didn't ask the people who are living there, then everybody's happy. Now you go ask the people who are living there. 100,000 people got displaced because of that. That's one of the papers that we're working on in our. So in my lab, at the Good Enough Data and Systems lab, we model injustice in systems, whether they're data or other things. We work also in conservation. And the shitfuckery of systems at scale is shocking. So logicians have started to come up with ways to solve this. And a really powerful way that we work with is to construct an OLOG, which is a description of the arrows and things in the system described by the people in the system. An OLOG is it's an ontological diagram of a system. So the question at the heart of life, the universe, and ethics and AI is this: what the fuck is your ontology?